Hey there, Alga Talkers. It has been a while since our last podcast, but AlgaTalk has been working hard to bring you new content on our YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know, AlgaTalk has been creating holiday specials and news segments about algae. If you haven't checked it out yet, look up AlgaTalk on YouTube, click subscribe, and get notified for future algae content. On this podcast, AlgaTalk interviews two experienced algae producers from a startup called AlgaHealth. One is CEO Aaron Itzkovich and Dr. Oren Ayalon. We discuss how the algae company got started, how AlgaHealth's products can help people become healthier in the age of COVID-19. Lastly, we speak about the future plans of AlgaHealth. Currently, AlgaHealth has created an innovative way to extract Fucoxanthin from microalgae. Without further ado, here is AlgaHealth and its innovative Fucoxanthin.
My name is Aaron Itzkovich. I'm the CEO of AlgaHealth. Been with the company about a little over a year.
And I'm Oren Ayalon.
Dr. Oren Ayalon.
Dr. Oren Ayalon. I'm a co-founder of AlgaHealth. We founded it in 2017 here in Kibbutz El Shemer in the ecological greenhouse of Kibbutz El Shemer. And I co-founded the company with Mr. Hagai Tzur, who was a very successful CEO. And in 2014, I started to play with all sorts of microalgae species in my backyard, Musteret Batya. And this was because I realized after many years of working that the best, the most valuable and the most interesting ingredient that you can source from microalgae is Fucoxanthin. It has a very nice and very interesting health benefits. I thought then that it is going to be the most valuable ingredient that you can find in microalgae. So I started to play with all sorts of species, looking at different species of microalgae and looking at the content of Fucoxanthin in them, the growth rates, and it was interesting to me. And these games, let's call them, in the garage or in the backyard, were summarized. The data that was generated was summarized in a patent application that I submitted myself in August 2015. And after I submitted this patent application, together with the help of Hagai Tzur, we started to look for seed investment. At that time, I was also a volunteer here in the ecological greenhouse, helping then the professional manager, Dr. Gal Dishon, who managed the ecological greenhouse, the microalgae part of the ecological greenhouse. I helped him with several scientific and professional issues. When we finally raised enough money as a seed investment, the logical thing was to start our activities in the ecological greenhouse in Kibbutz El Shemer. And this is how we started.
Is kibbutz a good place to start up a biotech or agri-tech company? Why?
Kibbutz is a very good place because there's, of course, all the background in agriculture and the awareness of how important is agriculture and how important it is to move to advanced agriculture because of the relatively rare resources in Israel, in land, in water, in energy. There is a constant effort to become more and more efficient and to look for new agriculture, new products, new species to grow, and new sources. And microalgae is definitely one of the most interesting because of the amount of ingredients that you can produce from microalgae in general. The world of microalgae is vast, and the number of ingredients that you can use from microalgae is in the hundreds, maybe in the thousands. So the amount of ingredients you can get from microalgae, the relative efficiency of growing microalgae in terms of water or land per actual product is far higher than traditional agriculture. All this makes the direction very clear to people who are in this business, that a lot of the ingredients, not most, but a lot of the ingredients or food products, food sources that we consume today from traditional sources could be replaced by a source from microalgae.
Did it help AlgaHealth to start at the ecological greenhouse, and how?
Yes, the ecological greenhouse staff, Avital Geva, of course, the father of all the operations there, all the rest of the staff that works there. It's a very lovely and lively place, and we were welcome. It was a win-win situation because we had already a big part of infrastructure already there working, and we had very passionate high school students that were eager to do something, to help. They were already working with microalgae. Microalgae were a big chunk of the ecological greenhouse projects even then.
What was your experience with the investors of AlgaHealth?
When we received from our investors, we received the seed money. The investors asked us, well, this is the sum of money that we can give you. What can you do with that? So, and at that time, the whole idea behind AlgaHealth was sketches on paper and theory. So we told them, look, with this amount of money, we can maybe show you that we can grow the algae, that we know how to grow the algae, and that we can prove to you that we can obtain products, make a product from them as a proof of concept. But in no way we are going to do that in the most efficient way, the most economic way. Just we'll show you that we grow the algae and we can produce a product from them. And we did that at the ecological greenhouse, and we did much more than that. We surprised ourselves even. We can grow and produce from the algae in a pilot, which was predictive and a semi-commercial way. This was an advantage for us. It was a proof of concept plus. And we ended up with prototypes of products. We ended up with basic protocols of growth and production. And this was the basis, actually, for raising the next investment, which came from the kibbutz itself. Because the kibbutz had a year and a half to watch and to see and to witness what we are doing and what we are trying to do on a day-to-day basis. And they were impressed.
Why did En Shemer decide to invest in AlgaHealth?
Kibbutzim in general have gone through, I would say, a mini revolution in terms of investing in the concept of investing in technology. After many years of working mainly with the traditional industry, plastic, metals, electromechanics, and so on, they realized that they need to develop the next sources of income for the kibbutz and to invest in, of course, advanced technologies that now a lot of these kibbutzim, well, they have the resources on one hand, of course, the money itself, but also other resources, the buildings, the access to water, to land, and a lot of knowledge. And I would say the agrotech, the food tech and agrotech sectors were just like a fit of glove to the hand for these kibbutzes, because you're talking about advanced technology that most of the kibbutzim weren't able to develop by themselves, but they have a lot of understanding in the application of these technologies. That's a huge advantage for these kibbutzim when you're talking about agrotech to people who are not working with agriculture on a day-to-day basis. It's different than talking to people who do agriculture on a daily basis, so they understand very quickly what's the advantage of your technology. And they have, of course, like I said, the access to resources, so you can move very quickly to proof of concept and to actual production. You can move very quickly because you have the available land, you have the available crops if it's relevant, you have access to water, you have access to facilities, and this enabled the kibbutzim to become active and involved investors in these companies, and AlgaHealth is no different in that sense. So the kibbutz had a very good way of analyzing the company, of understanding the value and the advantage of what AlgaHealth is trying to do, and implement the facilities and the resources that the company needs to move forward. And that's a very good fit between AlgaHealth and Kibbutz and Shemer.
And it is these types of projects, even more than that, it is in the culture of kibbutzim. It is a perfect fit with the culture of the kibbutzim.
Mindset of agriculture on one hand, but the understanding of advanced and the will to advance more, to move to high tech agriculture, to not to stand still in the traditional agriculture, but to move to agrotech, to incorporate new technologies into the business and into the agriculture itself, and to move from traditional crops to new crops, to more advanced sources.
It's in the culture.
It's in the culture of the kibbutzim. One more advantage in this kibbutz, in this kibbutz specifically, and in kibbutzim in general, is a very pragmatic way of thought, and we're very business-minded people. So you don't spend a lot of time and a lot of resources on going around. There's less effort going into PR and more effort going into actual development and actual production. And that's a good thing for this kind of company.
How did COVID-19 affect the development of AlgaHealth?
It was very frustrating, and we had to freeze our activities, our operation, our everything. We were allowed and we had money to do only the very basic things that were required to maintain the different strains of microalgae alive. The corona pandemic caught us exactly in the crucial moment where we should have started to increase our activities and to break through. And unfortunately, we had to freeze our activities, and that gave a chance to our competitors and to several of our customers to either make their own advantages, to use their time to advance, and our main customers to find other solutions. So this was unfortunate for us, but what you can do? That's what the situation.
Yeah.
How long did it take for AlgaHealth to recover?
Actually, we resumed our activities on September of 2020, and we did that by reorganizing our managerial staff.
That's where I come in.
We recruited a new chairman, Omer Geva, from Kibbutz Shemer. We recruited a CEO with prior experience in the microalgae industry. We started to build all the infrastructure that we planned, bought new equipment, arranged a lab, growth room.
One of the things that were most important were actually to put this company back into operation, yes. Which meant, well, first of all, we had some milestones that needed to be achieved with the investors. This was the agreement. So we had some milestones that we needed to achieve, and we need to put this company back into working order. So we did three important things. One was establish a pilot facility to test different technologies of microalgae production, getting ready for production scale. The other was to move forward with our lab and growth room and to improve our means. For instance, because we are dealing with an ingredient that we extract from the microalgae, we need to run a lot of quality assurance and a lot of tests. So we got the right equipment to increase our capacity. In that sense, we went from running eight tests a week, or sometimes 8 tests a month, to running 40 to 50 tests every day. That was a huge leap, and it put us in a totally different place in terms of the ability to develop our product and to develop the microalgae, getting ready for actual sales. And the third part was to start marketing, to start contacting old customers and new customers, and starting to put our face to the market. We were very fortunate to have a customer address us in late 2020, and we started actual commercial negotiations in late 2020 with a very important customer, and we're able to begin sales in early 2021. Now, one of the concepts is very important to point out that AlgaHealth's concept is the product. We produce Fucoxanthin and in the future other ingredients from microalgae. Our focus is producing the product and developing the product and the microalgae. The mass production technologies that require extremely high amounts of investment are something that we thought strategically was better done with partners, and we partnered up the company that have a production facility with all the required standards and certifications, so we could move forward with production and put our product into the market. So we're actually finishing 2021 with actual sales of a few hundred kilograms of our product, with the proof of being an actual producer on the market. We position ourselves as a high quality, high quantity producer of Fucoxanthin to potential customers, and it's a very good position to start 2022.
In what way can AlgaHealth's Fucoxanthin improve the health of people in order to fight this COVID-19 pandemic?
Obesity is considered one of the worst epidemics in the Western world in, I think, the last half century. There's actually a study from the OECD from 2019 that's pre-pandemic, but still a very important study that shows that over 60% of the adult population in these countries was either overweight or obese, which is it's a huge number. And just the expenditure of treating the health issues that derive from this condition is over $300 billion a year. That's over 8% of the entire health expenditure of these countries. If you're able to reduce these issues even by a little, by using a natural ingredient that's environmentally grown, it's a huge advantage. The economic value is of course clear, but when you talk about the quality of people's life, to improve their health, that's a huge value for us. Now, Fucoxanthin has actually been on the market for about 20 years now, and so it's not a new product per se, but it's still very rare because of the current source. Fucoxanthin currently is produced mainly from seaweed, from macroalgae. But this production process is extremely inefficient because the Fucoxanthin concentration in seaweed is extremely low. For example, in our microalgae today, we're able to reach about 1.5% of Fucoxanthin in our microalgae. To put that in comparison, in seaweed, the concentration would be 0.05%. So our microalgae has 30 times more Fucoxanthin per kilogram of biomass than seaweed. When you take that into account, the amount of seaweed that you need to harvest and that you need to process in order to produce 1 kilogram of fucoxanthin is huge. And there is other issues as well, because seaweed is harvested in the open oceans. Of course, the harvesting itself is extremely damaging to the ocean floor and to the beaches. And because it's in the ocean, you could get everything that's in the ocean water, heavy metals, other contaminants, iodine, and these issues. And all these lead to very short supply, a very small supply of actual fucoxanthin on the market compared to the very high demand. One of the results is a very high market price that actually doesn't enable fucoxanthin to be widely spread. If we manage to make this move into microalgae, we'll be able to increase the supply of fucoxanthin to the market many times over and address the current demand that's mostly unmet, and also going to other applications that's currently unavailable or inaccessible to use fucoxanthin. For instance, more common food products, more common food supplements that are more accessible. Other applications, because we would be able to go into higher concentrations of our product. Most of the products today are marketed in 1% with 1% of fucoxanthin. We have two products, one for the cosmetics industry, one for the nutritional industry, that would go as high as 10%. When you go as high as 10%, you can start using new applications that weren't available before, like anti-aging products in cosmetics, UV protection in cosmetics, anti-obesity, and help prevent diabetes, help prevent cardiovascular issues through the food or through the food supplement themselves in a much more accessible way that has been before. These are huge advantages that we can introduce because of the microalgae source that we're introducing. Now, it's also important to note that we're not the only microalgae producer. There are at least one or two more microalgae producers on the market, but our microalgae is different from the one most of the world use Photodactylum trecontum today, which is a very nice little microalgae. But we've managed to isolate another type of microalgae that, first of all, has potentially much more fucoxanthin than Photodactylum, and the processing, the post-harvest processing, would be probably much simpler and much more efficient than working with Photodactylum. For instance, our product today can be extracted without any organic solvents. That's a huge advantage in terms of quality, in terms of marketing, because some markets will not accept products that have traces of organic solvents. Our product comes free from organic solvents, so it can be accessible to these markets. It's much higher and it's much higher quality. That's another important issue that we're addressing. Another important advantage that we can bring to the market.
And of course, different species have their fucoxanthin in a different content of the cell. I mean, if in Photodactylum the fucoxanthin is attached or extracted with some types of fatty acids and some types of proteins, in another species of algae, the same molecule of the fucoxanthin is attached or is surrounded or is extracted with other types of fatty acids and other types of proteins, for example. So the overall physiological activity or quality of the ingredient may be and is different.
Why is fucoxanthin needed in nature?
The physiological role of fucoxanthin in nature, in these algae, is to function as an antenna to absorb wavelengths of light to help in photosynthesis. For example, if the algae growing in the open ocean changes its depth, then if it goes to a little bit deeper water, then the wavelengths of light that reaches the algae are different, are shorter. This is very well known by divers, for example, by scuba divers, that from certain depth you stop seeing red color, and you go deeper, you stop seeing the green color, and you ended up seeing everything blue. So fucoxanthin is better at absorbing the energy of blue light, and thus helps in the photosynthesis, where blue light is a major part of the light. The deeper you go, the more fucoxanthin you need. If the algae finds itself under ice, more fucoxanthin is needed. That's the natural role or physiological role in the algae, in nature. Now, what it does in the human body. So there have been a lot of studies done with fucoxanthin on animals, preclinical, and even in vitro, on cells, in laboratories, and also in clinical trials. And the overall finding is that fucoxanthin that you ingest finds itself into the mitochondria of white fat cells. And in there, in the mitochondria, it is a modulator of a protein complex called uncoupling protein 1. And the main role of this protein complex in the mitochondria is to generate energy from fat. So when you compile all the mechanism of action of fucoxanthin, where it affects and what it affects in cells and in the body and in fat cells and in tissues, overall, if I summarize it, it is involved in the catabolism or breaking down fat tissue in order to use it for energy.
To put it into practical terms, it breaks down your belly fat.
Right, because the fucoxanthin is telling it to produce more energy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it shifts the body metabolism from being sugar-based into fat-based. If you look for fucoxanthin on the internet, on YouTube, fucoxanthin and weight management, fucoxanthin and metabolic syndrome, you would find a lot of recommendations and material.
What is AlgaHealth's angle in the nutritional market?
The angle is to bring a very high quality product to the market, but do it also in a very efficient way. Of course, the economic efficiency is obvious, and that's one thing, but also the environmental impact of this production. That's a very important issue, because finally, in the past year or two, the climate crisis has come to the attention of a growing part of people in the world. And we understand now that it's not enough just to produce good products. We have to do it in a sustainable and in a way that we impact the environment as less as possible. And this is a classic case of this issue. We can produce a very high quality, very beneficial, very healthy product, but move from a low efficiency, unsustainable source into a high efficiency, sustainable, environmentally friendly source. It's a classic case for this issue. It's the same product, even a higher quality product, with a much smaller environmental impact. And that's a huge deal. If we can replace, just think about the carbon emissions that producing 1 kilogram of fucoxanthin. You have to harvest between 2 and 3 tons, 23,000 kilograms of biomass to produce just 1 kilogram of fucoxanthin. From microalgae, you produce less than 100 kilograms. That's 30 times less the amount of biomass to produce the same kilogram of fucoxanthin, and in a much more environmental source than the traditional source. So you cut down all these carbon emissions. The tractors, the machinery, the energy production that's used to produce from seaweed, from the macroalgae, is much higher than producing from microalgae. So we're preventing all these emissions at the source. So we don't have to mitigate, there's no need to mitigate or sequester the carbon emissions because they're not there in the first place.
Is seaweed the main source of fucoxanthin?
Yes.
Yeah, more than 99%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
I would say
You
about
guys
98.
changed it.
Yeah, about 89. Yeah, about 99% is still produced from seaweed. Our goal is to go with a higher quality source and replace this very inefficient, very harmful process. We've actually already started some connection with I would say at least one of these producers from seaweed is actually started a connection with us in order to start developing a product and a process to replace the traditional process with our new process.
You can say they are competitors, that they produce Fucoxanthin, but they are also our main customers.
So that's the main idea to go into this collaboration. I think it would be very smart to go into these collaborations. We're not, one way to look at it is to look at these large corporations as, the big bad corporations, or to go another way and say, okay, these are the corporations. They did their thing, but now we have a new way of doing these things. Let's collaborate, and let's not try to replace them out or try to replace this product. But we have a good product. There's a very healthy and very beneficial application for this product. But let's do it in a new, sustainable, environmentally friendly source, and let's do it together so we can reach as much of the market as we can.
In the future, where will we find AlgaHealth's Fucoxanthin?
Because of the market prices today, it would mostly go into food supplement into the cosmetics industry. Like I said before, the most interesting applications in the cosmetics sector are for anti-aging. The Fucoxanthin, one of the mechanisms of Fucoxanthin is to slow down the breakdown of collagen. It slows down the creation of wrinkles. That's the functions. So that's your anti-aging application. The other is for UV protection. Fucoxanthin is also proven to reduce the damage from UV radiation. It's a very powerful antioxidant, so it improves the health of the skin. So that's one application. And our product for this sector, which is called Dermaxanthin, is a product with a high concentration of Fucoxanthin and other ingredients that are designed to complement and help with the mechanism of Fucoxanthin to increase the impact or to maximize the impact of Fucoxanthin on the skin. That's Dermaxanthin. The other application is Nutrixanthin. It would be a product for food applications, for dietary supplements. The main application is for weight management, but it's not just on the preventive side, which is most food supplements today are on the preventive side. You can continue eating and they'll prevent gaining weight or they'll prevent weight issues. There's a lot of published work that shows that Fucoxanthin helps break down white fat tissue in the body, which means, among other things, belly fat. There are other published work that show that it helps significantly in reducing the chances to get diabetes type 2, cardiovascular disease, and other issues that are related to obesity. So that's Fucoxanthin, unlike other preventive ingredients, is an active ingredient that improves the health of the people who take it. Our vision in that sense, or our end goal, is to go into actual food products. So you would improve your health by consuming the same food that you're taking today. So for example, you'd eat your yogurt or drink your milk, but it would have Fucoxanthin added to your yogurt and to your milk. So you'd get the benefits from your yogurt and the added benefit of Fucoxanthin, which improves your health.
What is another field where Fucoxanthin could improve people's health?
Another field that Fucoxanthin would probably play an important role is the field of neuroprotection, which is one of the major health problems of modern age. All sorts of conditions and diseases like dementia or cognitive problems, or what happens to the brain after stroke. To defend neurons, the whole field of defending neurons and prevent damage from the brain or from neurons is called neuroprotection. And again, there are several published papers that indicate that Fucoxanthin may be a very potent neuroprotector. This is why they call it. They call a lot of dietary supplements, products that are in the market containing fucoxanthin as brain food.
To address cognitive issues, like for more elderly people, for instance, maybe could be possibly dealing with the memory loss, with other cognitive issues that arise that start appearing at an older age. It could be helpful in preventing or improving cognitive performance.
And in that line, there was a recent paper that claimed or shows that fucoxanthin can be a fountain of youth.
Really?
Why?
Wow.
Well, of course it is very interesting, but it works, for the time being, it works on nematode, which are worms,
Right.
and Drosophila, which is a fly. So,
All right, well. So at least we're protecting them. We got them.
elongated,
Yep.
We got them. We're going to be able to protect
yeah,
them.
it elongated their life,
Yeah. Oh, okay.
and by more than 100%.
Okay.
I mean, doubled their life,
Their life expectancy.
expectancy.
What are the future plans for AlgaHealth?
So yeah, by 2022, we're going to do several things. First of all, of course, increase our marketing and start selling commercially, mostly now in the US and in the Far East. And of course, continue our research. So we're planning by the end of 2022 to make significant advancement with our microalgae to be much more efficient and much more producing than it is today. Another important part of the R&D is into the product development to perform our own clinical tests and to prove in a more substantial way the applications for which these products are made. And in the longer run, there's two ways or two branches of our development that we're going to go into. One is to develop additional products from this microalgae, going to downstream products, going to new applications, and also going to new microalgae. A lot of the R&D that we do today in the technology side, in the growth protocols, in the biotech tools that we use, could be relatively easily implemented to other microalgae, so we can move to other new ingredients from other microalgae. And the technology itself that's being developed could be used to develop or to address different microalgae, to have the microalgae itself as a product to be produced by other companies for other products. One of the major issues in general in producing for microalgae today is that the production process or the quality assurance process is very inefficient. It takes normally between 24 and 36 hours of analysis to analyze your biomass and understand what you have, in your PBRs or in your fermentation tanks. We have an R&D program to develop real-time or near real-time sensors that could reduce this analysis time to seconds to minutes. So your production process would of course become much more efficient because you would be able to change and to adapt your conditions almost online. It's a world first. There's no such system in the world today. And of course, it would be natural. It's funny to say natural, but it would be natural to implement AI and machine learning into these systems, so it can be done much more efficiently than we could do it, by hand, or we can do it manually, or with our resources. It could be a spin. It could be a very interesting spin-off of AlgaHealth to go into these technologies.
How can people reach out to AlgaHealth?
Yeah, we have. They can go on our website, of course. Send us an email, and we're always happy to make new contacts, new collaborations. It's very important to us, and we're very open to any type of collaboration in these fields. If it's either product development or technology development, production, in all aspects. We'd be happy to collaborate in any of these areas. We should increase our social media presence. We're currently mostly on LinkedIn, of course. Like most startups, we're mostly on LinkedIn. The collaboration, yes, of course, the collaborations that we're looking for in B2B with other producers. If you have, let's say, a cosmetics product line that you'd like to launch a new product for anti-aging or for UV protection, then definitely you can combine Fucoxanthin into it,
or lipstick,
or shampoo, and so on. And on the other side, of course, if you have food supplement line, if you have food supplements, and you're looking to complement or improve your products with metabolic syndrome, with addressing metabolic syndrome, with addressing weight management issues, then yes, Fucoxanthin would definitely be one of the products, and we'd be happy to collaborate.
Well, that was a very information-packed interview with two very experienced algae farmers. It is great to see AlgaHealth is trying to get lower cost and higher quality Fucoxanthin to the market. This microalgae product could help millions become healthier and live a longer, more fulfilled life. It is interesting to note that AlgaHealth grew into the company it is today by starting in the ecological greenhouse in Ein Shemer. This ecological greenhouse has been a home to many algae production startups and continues to reach out to teach students the importance of algae. On our next episode, we will interview two scientists from the ecological greenhouse and get the inside story about this flower in the desert. And until next time, if you keep listening, we'll keep alga talking.